Do ghosts need a passport to go between the spirit world and our world? How many cats can I have in my apartment before it becomes too many cats? All of these questions you can find the answer to on this Paranormal Life! Hello everyone and welcome back to This Paranormal Life, Boom. The comedy paranormal podcast where every week, myself and my associate Kit Greer-Mulvena investigate a brand new paranormal tale and come to a conclusion as to whether or not it truly is paranormal. And let me tell you folks, today is an exciting one because as of today, we have officially entered spooky season!
Whoa, shit! I kind of forgot for a second, but that is right. I'm hearing in from the officiators, VAR has confirmed it is October 1st.
Woo, we just about made it. Just about made it to October 1st. My favorite time of the year. This is the month. Let me tell you something, all right, guys? For 11 months of the year, we paranormal investigators,
calm down the Joker.
Paranormal enthusiasts, we keep our little mouths shut. We pretend to be normal. We talk about the football game on Sundays. We sit down with our families and we say, "Oh, how was your day? Did you have a nice weekend?"
I like sitting down with my family. That's fine.
And then as soon as it hits October 1st, we let the freaks out.
Right.
Open up the doors to the asylum.
Yeah.
Let the lunatics onto the streets.
Yeah, I'm not a lunatic though. I just like the paranormal. We're not.
Do you think that's exactly what a lunatic would say?
We let murderers.
Sane. That's how f***ed up he is. He thinks he's sane.
We let murderers drive buses.
A child becomes president.
We let sex offenders sell groceries for some reason. No, just a terrible idea.
This is the one time of the year, the month that we have claimed for ourselves, us, the paranormal enthusiasts, the people who love everything spooky, creepy, weird. And this podcast is the best place to indulge in it because, as you know, every week we dive into the paranormal, and it's finally time for the rest of the world to dive into the paranormal with us.
Couldn't agree more. And I know this sounds like we're just giving general like Halloween platitudes. Like, yes, of course, we enjoy it, you enjoy it. But listen up, because this Halloween is different too.
Oh, yeah.
You know, here at This Paranormal Life, we love to celebrate Halloween, try and go all out, do something special on that day, whether it be a live stream or whether it be a special episode where we dive back through the history of Halloween and its dark, cursed history, and dress up or whatever it is. But this year we wanted to pull out every stop, leave nothing out in the field, leave everything out in the field, leave nothing on the table. That's what I'm trying to say.
The metaphors are getting a little sloppy.
We want to go psycho this Halloween.
Okay, so you're back to saying that you are insane?
Oh, yeah. That is why we are going back to our roots. And we are releasing 2 episodes of This Paranormal Life a week for October.
Wow.
Not everyone remembers that or was around for the very beginning, but we were so nuts back when we started This Paranormal Life. Episodes dropped twice a week for months in the very beginning before we were like, okay, that's crazy. We can't do that all the time. We're doing it again. And This Paranormal Life is going to come out on Tuesday as normal. But then on Thursday, starting next week, we're going to kick off our first ever season of Campfire. Rory, what is Campfire?
Campfire is going to be a limited series that is going to be released right here on the main feed of This Paranormal Life. And the best part is it's available to everyone who listens to This Paranormal Life completely free. It is an extra weekly bonus episode that's dropping on Thursdays, telling you some of the most terrifying and spooky campfire stories to get you in the mood for Halloween.
We are going to be kicking off next week. I can tease the title of it because it is a lot of fun. We've got some great stories lined up. The first episode is David Bowie's very, very, very haunted swimming pool.
These episodes are available to everyone. They're going to be dropping on this feed, so keep an ear out next Thursday for the first episode of Campfire to get you ready for spooky season, baby. But until then, do not worry because, of course, today on the podcast, we have a huge full-scale investigation into one of the weirdest and creepiest stories I think we've ever had emailed in to this podcast.
Word?
Absolutely. We got an email from Aubrey Lohr who said, "Hello, lads. I just learned about an abandoned township in Connecticut, USA. For many years, ghost hunters have been fascinated by tales of the lost village. Grave events were said to have been caused by a curse brought by the Dudley family to the New World. Now, usually when we read an email on this podcast, the joke is that we say we are only seeing this now, even though it was emailed into us 5-6 years ago.
Usually, inevitably, yes.
Well, I'm proud to say that this email was sent to us 10 days ago.
Yo, a couple working weeks ago.
How's that for emergency response?
It's all right. Well, it's not exactly 9 minutes kind of ambulance response time, but sure.
We should maybe set up a paranormal hotline that's like 666.
But
You call 666?
you never answer the phone when I FaceTime you. So how are you supposed to respond to an entire community of thousands of people calling you about random events at random times of day?
Well,
You wouldn't even answer the phone to your best bud.
Maybe
Kit.
maybe you don't call it. Maybe you like text it. And if I'm up, I'll read it and I'll think about responding for a while. And then I'll maybe get back to you depending on the severity of the issue.
We were just talking about it yesterday. Me and you are both the confirmed crowned kings of slowest texter backers.
I'm so bad
we're
at
both
it.
terrible.
Yeah. Which is
At
good.
least we're on the same page.
Yeah.
Yo, you were cooking though with the dial 666 because it's the upside down 999.
That's what I'm thinking. You have a paranormal
Oh.
emergency, call 666. Kit and Rory will sort it out if we feel like it.
Bro, this is
Not on weekends.
such. What are you doing?
I'm busy, obviously.
Fair. What I will say is Aubrey Lower, with a last name like that, you know the story's going to be hitting.
Oh, yeah. Aubrey hit up 666 and we're responding right now within 10 days. Unfortunately, we also did get this email from Jesse Schreiber 4 years ago.
Okay. Sorry, Jesse.
Who also sent this case in. Took us a little longer to get to her email. We hadn't set up the hotline yet, so that's understandable. But don't worry, Jesse. Don't worry, Aubrey. We are going to investigate your town on the podcast today because this story is fascinating. A small town in America that now lies in ruin, buried deep in the forests of Connecticut, and as of right now, the public are banned from entering. So what happened in this town that led to everyone fleeing? Why are the public still not allowed to visit? Well, because this town is basically Hawkins from Stranger Things. This is a town of terrors, a village of the damned, the epicenter of evil. And it's also known as the Curse of Dudleytown.
A slightly less scary sounding name, but fine.
Yeah, that's why I had to throw in Town of Terrors,
Yeah.
Epicenter of Evil. Well, here's the thing, though. Did you ever stop and think that it has to be called Dudley? Something so lighthearted and fun, just to deal with the sheer amount of paranormal nastiness?
It wasn't called that because it was paranormal.
That's why you never visit. That's why.
It's fine. We're not hung up on the name. It's fine.
No, you are hung up on the name. You are hung up on the name. That's why if you go to somewhere called Teddy Bear Village, that's going to be the most cutthroat den of madmen and criminals you've ever seen before.
Right.
But Madman's Rock, it's a pretty chill place,
Yeah.
you know?
It's in the story. If you go down to the teddy bear's picnic, you'll get stabbed.
You're in for a big surprise.
Yeah.
We're going to hear all about the Curse of Dudleytown right after a few words from today's sponsors. And a reminder, you can get every episode of this podcast ad-free on patreon.com/thisparanormallife. To find out just why this place is so haunted, we need to investigate its dark and tragic history. Dudleytown was founded way back in the early 1740s by a man named Thomas Griffis. Things were good. More and more families moved into the area. They began growing crops and harvesting timber. A simple and honest life. But during those early days, this community was joined by a lot of Dudleys. Gideon Dudley, Abel Dudley, Martin Dudley. More and more Dudleys settled into what would soon become known as Dudleytown.
It's, man, this is, all the names you just mentioned are a nightmare blunt rotation. Like,
Martin Dudley?
Gideon Dudley. Oh, Jesus. I feel like I'm back in RE, religious education class in secondary school.
Unfortunately, Thomas and the rest of the townsfolk were unaware that the Dudleys brought with them a dark curse that stretched back to the 16th century in England. And it didn't matter what your second name was. This curse was about to slowly spread to everyone in the village like a wildfire. You see, the legends claim that way back in 1510, an Englishman named Edmund Dudley had planned a coup against King Henry VIII. When caught, he was thrown in front of the courts to decide his punishment. This monster, Edmund Dudley, was caught attempting regicide. How should we punish him? He deserves no mercy!
I say we cut off his head. Cut it off with a big axe.
Death is too kind a punishment for this betrayal. I suggest a curse. A curse on him and his ancestors, that they too shall forever carry the shame of his misdeeds.
We should also cut his head off.
Yeah, of course we're gonna cut his head off, but I'm just saying we do the curse thing at the same time. You're obsessed with cutting off people's heads.
No, I'm not. I just think a curse is great, but also cut the head off, yes.
Right, but there's gotta be some level of punishment, you know. If you do something really bad, cut the head off. Some people come in here, all they did was steal an apple, you say cut the head off.
Sometimes cut the cheeks off.
Who let him in? Who keeps letting
Butt
him in
cheeks,
here?
Cut the butt cheeks off.
So they did. They placed a curse on the Dudley name and beheaded Edmund. Edmund died instantly, but the curse was only beginning. Years later, John Dudley was executed. Then Guilford Dudley was executed. And now that we know about this curse, you'll understand why things started to go south when the Dudleys arrived in this village. This small community of around 26 families started to struggle. Winters were harsh, soil refused to grow crops, and the villagers could swear that night crept earlier and earlier every day. But it wasn't just poor crops and bad weather that was affecting the village. It wasn't long before things started to get paranormal. And once it started, it spread like a fire. Things kicked off back in the 1760s, when one villager named Nathaniel Carter returned to Dudleytown from a business trip to discover that his wife and child had been murdered.
Oh dear.
Unable to deal with the horrible loss, he left the town and returned to his home in New York, where shortly after, he was murdered.
Oh, shit. All right, to be clear, none of this is paranormal just yet, but we're...
Murder?
That is just, yeah.
An unfortunate series of events.
Sure.
You would think, Kit, and I know what you're questioning. What does this have to do with the Dudleys? Well, the house that he'd purchased in Dudleytown was previously owned by Abel Dudley. Did Nathaniel and his family catch a stray?
I mean, yeah, they were murdered, but so what you're inferring is that the aforementioned curse, which presumably was placed, the little freak guy, this guy didn't get his way, and it wasn't just his head cut off. He was cursed as well.
Yeah.
And you're saying the curse is passed down through the generations via the house and had not affected his family.
It's passed down through the Dudleys, but whatever the Dudleys touch, build, own, is affected by the curse.
What was the crime rate? What was the crime rate
in Dudleytown?
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. We don't know.
If you weren't the victim of a crime, you were committing the crime.
I'd like to say that I have records of the crime statistics at this time, but the guy who kept them was murdered.
Yeah. They were so splattered by blood, no one could ever read them again.
Unfortunately, Abel Dudley also did not get away unscathed. Later in his life, he went insane and died in the town.
Yeah, all right. This is like, all right, get out your TPL bingo cards where someone went insane and we never really explain what that means.
I really need you to not have a problem with that because the amount of people who go insane in this story is a record-breaking number.
Because I'll meet you in the middle here and I'll not bring it up again in future as long as I get it out of my system now. Don't worry, I've said it many times. I think you famously had an issue with me saying a pig went insane and had to be shot in the head.
Yeah, that's very different.
And you really did not like the idea of a pig losing. How do we know the pig lost its mind? What was it doing that was so un-pig-like that we were like, oh, that's a crazy pig. And yet, everyone knows what a crazy frog looks like in society. Am I wrong?
Okay.
So, but yes, I mean, I guess this was back in the day a bit. So, we didn't have the kind of the DSM-5 or whatever, the diagnostics manual of mental health we don't quite have the same language back then that we do today to describe mental issues.
Yes. Yeah. I think, and also I think probably back in these old-timey days, it was a lot easier to be declared insane.
Yes.
It just meant you stopped reading from your Bible. It's like, well, he's gone mad.
Yeah.
Obviously.
He had 2 fingers of whiskey on Saturday night. He's legally mad.
Yeah. And then his wife would be like, he's not mad. He's just questioning his belief system. And the village would be like, well, you're a witch. For sure you're a witch. And I think you're insane.
Witch.
We should kill them both, I think. And that makes me normal
Yeah.
for suggesting that.
And then, unfortunately, it was like, also, okay, all right, the judge is like, dung, gavel down. All right, wife's a witch, fella's insane, lock him up. I guess the old family farmstead falls to their eldest son. And then their neighbor who wants the farmstead is like, I actually saw the son doing some pretty nasty shit the other day, too. He's like, all right, boom, gavel down again. Give the farm to the neighbor. He's like, yes.
You're right. But in terms of property theft, I think you're going to realize people don't want property in Dudleytown. So we can rule that out.
If anything, you're trying to give it away.
Unfortunately, this curse didn't stop with Abel Dudley. Years later, a villager named Gershon Hollister was helping to build a barn for his friend, William Tanner, when suddenly he fell backwards, hitting the ground and dying on impact, right in front of William, which must have been a horrible thing to witness. I mean, imagine what that would do to a man. Well, I can tell you, he went insane.
All right. I'm starting to see a pattern.
William did go insane. But interestingly, in those later years of insanity, William's recollection of Gershon's death started to change. He began to tell people that the truth was, Gershon didn't die from a fall. He was attacked by a creature that came out of the forest.
I mean, the first excuse and then the second story are exactly what you would say if you killed Gershon. If you, William Tanner, killed Gershon, he fell over and hit his head. Everyone's like, no, he didn't. That's not possible. A beast, actually, now I'm thinking about it, a beast came out of the woods.
Yeah.
Ran up and...
Because the beast startled him and then he fell off the ladder and then the beast got him. There's an
axe in the back of his head.
Beast can't have an axe? You sound crazy to me. Lock this guy up. Look, this claim may sound insane, but for some villagers, they knew exactly what William was talking about. You see, at this point, the village was breaking out into a bit of a paranormal frenzy. There was talk about creatures stalking the woods around the village, demons and ghosts haunting the residents. Villagers were dying under mysterious circumstances or going insane. And in one instance, a woman named Sarah was even struck by lightning in front of her home. Unfortunately, after hearing the news about her death, her husband, Herman Swift, went insane.
All right. Okay. No, let's call time. It's call time. I was expecting a couple more people over the course of the entire episode. I wasn't expecting 4 people in 2 minutes.
I warned you, this is a record level of people going insane, according to the records. I agree this is probably a very dated way of describing what are probably quite severe mental health issues. But I am just
PTSD epidemic. Yeah.
But I'm just detailing the records here of how many people the village claims went quote unquote insane.
There's a fun and disturbing hypothesis posited by some historians that everyone we've ever described in kind of human history up to a certain point in time has PTSD. That whenever we look back at whether it's ancient Greece or early colonization of America or whatever, that everyone we're looking at through history, and often we do look back through history and people seem to make actions that don't really add up to us or seem strange or out of character or violent or aggressive. And some people have posited it's like life was so insane in different parts of the world at different times. Maybe they all were exhibiting essentially PTSD. Like whenever we look back at like a Roman battle and these people were slicing off people's heads, stabbing each other, smashing people's heads in with rocks, and then when the war was over, they would just go back to being a farmer with 2 kids outside Rome.
Yeah.
It's like, you can't do that. You can't, I think mentally, you can't do that. We know now you can't do that.
It's a bit much.
So then whenever that guy goes quote unquote insane down the line, we now look back and go, okay, I think Like I was probably suffering pretty severe PTSD from battle.
Right. They were all humans.
Yes.
Maybe culturally things are a little bit different or
Culturally
more gruesome,
different, but biologically and evolutionarily exactly the same as us.
yeah. People did go watch hangings, though.
Yes.
Like, for fun.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that was bad for them. I think that was kind of like a day out with the kids.
But that's what I mean, that their exposure to violence was such that they were all suffering some degree of mental disturbance.
Right. I mean, there's enough shit going down in Dudleytown that could be a valid answer as to why people are losing their minds a little bit.
Yeah, to be fair, I don't know enough about this period of history, but these people have been through a lot.
That's true. There were so many mysterious deaths, suicides, and cases of people going insane that the whole village was starting to fall apart. Something was happening in Dudleytown, and it was only getting started.
I like that I offer up like a kind of modern psychological interpretation of what might be happening. It's like, but for the purposes of the rest of the story, we're just going to keep saying they've gone insane, and the reasons is it's a paranormal curse.
They found a witch in someone's basement. It was supernatural. Kid, a lot of horrible stuff has happened so far, but I get it. It was the 1800s. Horrible things were probably a daily occurrence back then. I mean, it was probably a coin toss whether or not you would survive a winter. You know? Right. There wasn't a lot of good things to look forward to, aside from just continuing to live and exist.
Yeah, we think of ourselves in the modern age as reasonably precarious. Many people in the world living paycheck to paycheck. They fall a couple weeks behind in rent and they're homeless. Back then, bugs could just eat your harvest. You just imagine you just open, wake up one morning, open the curtains, everything's gone. Bugs ate everything. And your wife
right.
is like, all right, have a fun day out plowing the fields, and hey, we're all getting really excited for that harvest, a big harvest festival next week. We're like, yeah. She's like, so what should we do? Pumpkin pie and apple pie, or just one? Do you know what? Let's just do both. It's harvest season after all. Don't you think we should just go crazy for harvest season? Bugs ate everything. Yeah, Karen, they ate everything. There's nothing left.
There really wasn't that much to look forward to. Maybe a nice cloud. That was it.
Our understanding of early American history is so bad. People loved bugs not eating their crops and clouds.
That was their Netflix. They would clog off for the day and look at clouds. And they'd be like, "Yo, did you see that cloud last
night? New
season
of clouds." Talk about selling sunset, am I right, guys?
You'd be, at the bar with your buddies, just being like, "Man, you should have seen the fluffy motherfucker I saw yesterday." And the guys are like, "Sheesh, say less, say less."
They were betting on clouds. They're
cloud races.
There was a piss all going on.
Yeah. $2 on Nimbus, on that Nimbus over there.
$2 bought you a house, by the way.
Isn't that the name of a cloud? A Nimbus?
Cumulonimbus. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Is that right?
Cloud names. Nimbostratus was the name of a cloud. Cumulus was another one.
I don't know if it's cumulus. It might be cumulus. I think it's all Latin. Oh, cumulus.
So yeah, it wasn't exactly a nice time to be around. But unfortunately, even as the town entered the 20th century, things only got worse. At this point, the town's population had massively decreased, mostly due to the economy and the farming conditions. Possibly also because everyone in the village was going insane and talking about beasts in the woods.
Right, but there does seem to be, we do have to try and pick apart in some way. A beast, all right. We do have to try and pick apart in some way what is paranormal, what is a curse here, and what is not. Because, right, the town's population decreased because of, you said, to be clear, increasingly poor farming conditions, so they literally couldn't grow food.
The economy was bad as well.
Yeah,
I think the entire town was situated in a very bad plot of land.
Right, so it's like, to what extent did the curse of the Dudleys, was that affecting kind of the Federal Reserve Bank and the entire US economy at large? Was it the world economy, or was it kind of just, or was that a complete coincidence?
I think at its core, this was a bad place to build a town.
Okay, sure.
And the repercussions of that were insanity. Because you would kind of go insane if you had to live in such a bad place with so many Dudleys. You'd think you're going crazy. You're like, sorry, I'm a little confused because No, so, and what's your name? Dudley. All right. Well, I've met 4 Dudleys today, and God, have you guys seen a beast in the woods? Because I have. I've been seeing them a lot recently. A bug ate my crops. 1 hungry caterpillar ate 20 fields of wheat. I'm ruined.
He doesn't even, because how could he eat that much? But he seems to eat it and then vomit it up immediately after. That's how he can eat so much.
This
in
caterpillar.
such a short space of time.
Yeah, I actually think he's avoiding becoming a butterfly. He should have become a butterfly so long ago.
He's a Van Wilder of caterpillars. He refuses to graduate.
He refuses to become a butterfly. He just wants to be a hungry caterpillar.
He's like Matthew McConaughey. So you know what's the great thing about crops? I keep getting older and they keep staying the same age.
As I said, something was happening in Dudleytown, and it was only getting started. We're going to hear all about what's left right after a quick word from today's sponsors. One of the final residents was a man named Patrick Brophy, and his story is one of the wildest of all. During his time in Dudleytown, his wife passed away from tuberculosis. Shortly afterwards, without warning, his 2 children wandered off into the forest and were never seen again.
Oh, it's terrible.
It was as if something in the woods was calling them. And if that wasn't confusing enough, Patrick himself did the exact same thing.
I think you're just describing they were fed up. They just moved. They were like, this town sucks.
Nope.
We're going to New York.
The kids disappeared into the woods. Then days later, Patrick walked into the woods and never returned either. Not only were the family never seen again, but one night their home mysteriously burst into flames and burned to the ground. Something's going on in this town,
insurance
I'm telling
fraud.
you.
They fled their home and they're claiming insurance fraud. It is fine. It is possible. And I understand it comes with the territory of curse cases, that this is possible. This is a wide variety of implications from the curse, from getting tuberculosis to wandering off into the woods, to getting struck by lightning, to just getting murdered by a murderer. But it is, you have to admit, a pretty disparate variety of events.
I don't know. I think we know how widespread curses can be.
Yeah, but usually they're not real.
It's just misfortune, ill fate that befalls the people
walking
involved.
off into the woods isn't misfortune.
But it's something mysterious going on
I'm
in
going to
this
need to
village.
hear that at least their eyes glazed over like zombies and they kind of, ideally 2 hands up in the air, walked
It's
off.
safe to assume they were insane, brother. At the very
Well,
least.
just statistically, yeah.
They weren't in capacity of their mental faculties. I think that's a safe assumption.
This has to be what M. Night Shyamalan's The Village was based on.
I
Has to
genuinely, we're kind of making light of this whole thing. I genuinely love this story. I think it is
Can we
so
talk
cool.
about the Beast? You completely glossed over the Beast.
What do you want to know?
Everything.
It's just
Because right now, I'm just going to come out and say, I'm going to completely assume this is a wild pig. Because I assume everything is being glossed over and exaggerated here for the sake of a story. So if you kind of mention there's a beast that everyone's scared of, I'm just going to assume it's a pig.
there's very little information about the beast. It seems to be less of like a physical thing, like a cryptid,
Yes.
and more of an idea that something...
Jack, please. More of an idea.
I think you're already looking for logical conclusions to a paranormal case, and you're not going to find it here, kid. You're not going to find what you're looking for, because there isn't easy answers to the world of the paranormal. It's mysterious. It's strange.
Yeah, but that's fine. But you got to give it to me that when I asked you what the beast was, you said it's more of an idea.
I don't have to give you shit, because I'm insane. All right?
Yeah, we know.
I don't know what's going on in this village. This is part of the mystery of Dudleytown. How such a small population, peaking at only 26 families, could be filled with so much death, insanity, mysterious events, ill fortune. That in itself is the mystery of why this is happening. And yes, I agree, it is very widespread. It's not just people dying from mysterious circumstances. It's fires. It's people getting killed by lightning strikes. It's this repeated talk about seeing things in the forest. It's this overwhelming shroud of paranormal mystery that seems to encase this town, and it's coming through in so many different ways. It's like at the start of a paranormal movie where loads of shit is going on. Some people are like seeing figures off in the distance. Other people are hearing voices. It's almost like there is a paranormal fault line, a crack in the earth, and it's oozing through this town where people are losing their minds and all of these horrible things are happening.
I know what you're saying. It's like other real world locations that we've looked into before, like Bridgewater Triangle, Bermuda Triangle, of course, where there is a hotspot of paranormal activity. You mentioned that it was 25 families living there, that we hadn't actually got that sense of how small it was, which I will give to you, is like your Animal Crossing island, except the dog who lives in the house next door murdered him and his family.
He went insane, yeah.
And Tom Nook burned down the Nook store and stuff. Yeah, it would be disturbing.
Yeah, the beast in the woods is a turtle with a hat. And he comes around asking for furniture every day.
The beast is called Joan, and she sells turnips, I think.
I like to think of this case as very similar to cases we've investigated before, where there's been kind of a paranormal phenomenon, such as the French town where the laughing epidemic happened, where people just couldn't stop laughing, and they were kind of temporarily lost their minds a little bit, and it spread throughout the city. Or very similarly, the dancing craze, where, I mean, you can jog my memory, but it was a town in Europe where suddenly people started dancing. They didn't even know why. I think people danced until they died.
Yeah, and we're not talking about the era of Soulja Boy's Crank That, which was another dancing craze which took over the world and people went mad. But no, a kind of 1500s medieval dancing craze.
Yeah, we're talking about pockets of the world and pockets of time where something weird is happening and it's affecting all the people around. I think in a lot of those cases, it was people quite possibly ingesting huge amounts of accidentally hallucinogenic mushrooms or crops. And that's why they were going wild.
Well, it was one of the pet theories, yes, I believe in the at least the dancing craze, that whatever village in France had their crop yield had been affected by a surprising freeze, which caused a death in some of the crops, causing an ergot fungus to grow, which biologically, naturally creates lysergic acid, aka LSD, my friends, a class A hallucinogenic drug, causing an entire town to go mad when the LSD was baked into their daily bread.
Right. So that's accidentally what happened. They dosed themselves. We could be looking at something similar here with Dudleytown, but it would be sad if you turned up to the dance circle in Dudleytown. The beast is also in there.
Yeah.
Just a wolf popping and locking.
Did we mention that Dudley's manufactured moonshine? That's what they made. That's the family biz.
Well, not long into the 1900s, the village had fallen to its lowest numbers. I wish that Patrick Brophy's story was the last one to come out of Dudleytown, but the town would claim one more life before it fell to ruin. In 1918, a man named Dr. William Clark and his wife were vacationing in their summer home that they'd recently purchased in a little place called Dudleytown.
What scam artist sold you on a property in Dudleytown? It's a very tight-knit little community. Pretty much everyone's called Dudley there.
Unfortunately, during their vacation, William got called back to New York on business, and when he returned home, something was wrong. His wife was shaking, insisting that they pack up and leave the town immediately. When he asked why, she simply replied, "There's something out there in the woods." Pretty creepy stuff, kid. From as late as 1918, we're hearing stories of outsiders coming to Dudleytown and claiming to see, just like the original settlers, something out there in the forest.
If I was the estate agent, I'd be like, don't buy a house next to creepy woods then. If you don't like creepy woods, don't buy the house next to the creepy woods. Can I just say that?
Yeah, because you're going to see some creepy shit in the woods.
It's like buying a beachside property in Malibu, California, and being like, you don't understand, I saw a fish leap out of this. Like, yeah, it comes with the territory.
I would love it if the husband comes back and he's like, what's wrong? It's like, we have to leave. It's like, why? What did you see? I saw a caterpillar. the size of a bus.
You don't understand how hungry it was. You have no idea.
I saw wings sprout on his back. He pulled them out. He doesn't want to transform into a butterfly. So what happened to this town in the end? Well, the truth is there's not much left of Dudleytown. After its few remaining residents departed, the town fell into ruin and was scored off of most maps. What now remains is a pile of ruins and crumbling walls, a mere shadow of the once terrifying cursed town. Interestingly, the site is now private property and the public are banned from entering. They say it's to protect the site from vandalism, but is it really to protect the public from Dudleytown? A valid question. You know, if this place is essentially the Chernobyl of the paranormal world.
All right, no one said, no, you're the first person to say that. You were the first person to say that shit.
You can't just have people wandering in and out. They're going to pick up the curse. You don't know what's going to piggyback off of them when they leave this area.
But you're saying the kind of local government knows it's the, quote, Chernobyl of the paranormal.
I didn't say that, and it's...
You did say it!
Not in those words, necessarily.
So you're saying they know it's paranormal, and that's why they've spent time and money stopping people going there?
Quite possibly. Quite possibly. I mean, they're saying it's to protect the site, but if you look at pictures, the site really... There's not much left to be protected. It really is just crumbling walls and stones.
Yes, I know what you're saying. I mean, we saw it before with Centralia, which was the American town, which was abandoned because, I mean, you talk about fault lines, I think just the pavement and streets started opening up, leading to borderline a Turkmenistan-style pit of fire underneath the town. But yeah, it gave rise to kind of gas leaks and things, and the town had to be evacuated, and the town is out of bounds to this day. But that's because there's gas leaks and there's
quote unquote
stuff like that. Not this. This is just bad vibes, bad juju.
Yeah, you could say it's because this town was, as I said, built in a bad spot and shouldn't have existed in the first place. Or is it the curse and the beast in the woods?
I mean, a lot of bad stuff has happened. I will give it to you.
Despite the town being locked off to the public, paranormal investigators and urban explorers have still ventured onto the property to investigate what's left of the town. And those who have managed to find the ruins have come away with some haunting experiences. Some people have reported seeing huge black shadows drifting through the nearby woods or emerging from the crumbling remains of the homes. Others have claimed that the curse is still so strong that no animal, with the exception of owls, will venture into the area. And finally, visitors have reported an overwhelming sense of sadness and suffocation, and most importantly, a feeling of being watched from the nearby woods.
So we keep coming back to this idea, as you said, of the beast in the woods.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think? I think there's something to, there's a kind of ancient idea out there of, I suppose, the kind of feng shui of a place or a location. And I'm sure in the actual ancient Chinese concept of feng shui, there probably is a real codified reason for that. They would argue their whole system of belief. We don't have that system of belief necessarily in the Western world, but I think we have some idea of a kind of what a place might feel like to feel auspicious versus inauspicious.
I think we call them vibes.
Yes, we kind of in the modern day might refer to it as a vibe. It has a good vibe versus not a good vibe. I wonder if there's something to that. Is that possible that there is a paranormal underpinning for the stuff we refer to as vibes? Whenever I went to Kyoto in Japan on my 2019 journey to Japan on holiday, I found Kyoto fascinating, as many people do, and found the history of it fascinating. That Kyoto was one of the rare places in the world that, as a city and a town, it was hundreds and hundreds of years ago when it was the capital of Japan, was planned in spiritual terms, that they purely took into account the flow of the river and the mountains around it and where they would then place shrines in relation to the natural landscape, and then built the town that way. And whether you believe in that spirituality or the paranormal element of it, it has resulted in a completely unique city experience.
I mean, we do that over here in the UK too, I want to say, you know. When we're building our towns, we'll say, let's put the McDonald's next to the pub. So when all the pissed people come out at night, they flow like a river into McDonald's.
Yes.
And then out to the big street where all the Ubers can collect people and take them home.
Yes. When all the f***ing piss heads
Yeah.
pour out into the street, let's put the taxi rank right next to that so they don't annoy anybody who lives nearby and they can get into a taxi and get home.
Exactly. Feng shui. You know, urban planning. That's what it's all about. You're saying this place is the opposite of Kyoto. It was planned so poorly that instead of invoking a sense of calmness and working together with the spirits of the world, they ruined it.
Right. They accidentally built their town hall, library, and council offices into a pentagram symbol. Do you ever see, I think we've talked about it before, but isn't there like a town somewhere where the town is built in like a swastika shape?
Oh, that's not good.
And like, whenever you see the image, you're like, that ain't real. And then you look it up and it's like, yeah, it is real. I can't remember if it was accidental or not. I must have been, but yeah, stuff like that happens. Is it possible they did it in such a, they accidentally spelled out 666, summoned some kind of demon? I don't know.
If your town structure ends up resembling a swastika, keep an eye on the city planner. Because that's quite a hard thing to do. Can you imagine that meeting where they're like, Dave, have you looked at the city from the sky? No, I haven't looked
from
at
the
it.
sky? You've been up in the sky lately, bro? That's crazy.
Yeah, it's like, it looks like a swastika, Dave. A very detailed one. Oh, that's crazy. No, I hadn't thought of that. And they're like, well, Dave, here's the thing. Here's the thing, though. You planned it on a map looking down at the city, so you must have seen that it looks like a swastika. Because you drew it, Dave. Yeah. But I guess if you see it from a different angle, if you look at a swastika from any angle, it's a swastika. That's kind of its thing.
Yeah. Oh, well, it's done now, isn't it? So, yeah. It's like, no, I insist we add a couple lines and turn it into a box. All right?
Anyway, I gotta head out. I'm spending the weekend at my Führer's-in-law's. Your what? Father-in-law. Sorry. Can we wrap this up? I gotta go in about 5 minutes. All right, fire him. Fire him now.
I will say, Googling it, I can't find the exact story that I was trying to find, and now I do look slightly crazy. But there are some other examples out there of something similar. And I'm not the crazy one. Maybe other people need to take a look in the mirror, because apparently there's a town in New York State called Swastika, and they voted to keep their name.
Why would you do that?
4 years ago. So
that's so disappointing.
There's swastika, of course, is a Sanskrit word.
I know.
So
no, don't do that to me. It's actually a Tibetan peace symbol. F*** off. You know what it is. You Nazi bastards.
All right, well, I don't know if everyone who lives in the town in New York State is a Nazi bastard.
If you voted to keep that name,
I think we better. All right, I think we better.
I'm sorry, I'm getting heated.
I think we better just move on.
Sorry.
All right, Indiana Jones. He's clenching his fist.
So angry.
Getting a whip out.
I'll give you a 5 minute head start. How about that? What were we talking about again? Oh yeah, no animals go in except owls. Because owls can get away from the beast.
I don't think that. I think you're reaching.
Yeah, I am losing it here a little bit at the end. I just added that now. That's not.
Owls are afraid a bird can escape the beast. Any bird can escape the beast. You yourself said the beast is more of an idea than a real creature. Even at the first question about what the beast was, you were like, "Oh, the beast ain't really real, bro."
The beast is a metaphor for a poor harvest. That's what it sounds like.
The beast is the caterpillar.
It's a caterpillar.
It's been feasting for 200 years.
Well, hey, what's cool is even though the town is locked off to the public, it's still been used for events. For example, famous paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren recorded a Halloween special in Dudleytown in the early 1970s.
Wow.
In that special, they officially declared it, quote unquote, demonically possessed.
Okay.
On top of that, in 1983, a film crew decided to do a story on Dudleytown. However, the reporter got violently ill while trying to film, and camera equipment refused to work while inside of the village. And as a final cherry on top of today's case, In a 1993 interview with Playboy magazine, actor Dan Aykroyd referred to Dudleytown as the most haunted place on Earth.
Wow. I mean, and Dan, I like the way I'm like, Ed and Lorraine Warren, off. Dan Aykroyd said it was haunted? Well, shit.
Hey, we love Dan, and he is, people don't think it necessarily because they may only know him from Ghostbusters fame, but Dan Aykroyd, a very reputable and respected paranormal enthusiast who's been doing the Lord's work, and maybe the Dark Lord's work, for many, many years.
Do you think he would come on the podcast?
I'd love to have him on the podcast. I think, was it maybe Reese and Dan from Cryptid Factor who said they've talked to him or done something with him
hung out
before?
with him or something.
But he does do a lot of paranormal stuff, and he really knows his shit. So it's very cool to hear him on the record say Dudleytown was one of the most haunted places on Earth.
Yeah, I do love to hear this, that I didn't realize. I mean, America's a big place, and there's a lot of haunted towns. So, I was...
Swastika land, for one.
No, it's just called Swastika in New York. Why do I sound like I'm the tourist board for Swastika? I don't give a shit about it. I'm just saying there's a town called that. But I assumed it was just one of a very, very long list. But that's really cool to know that actually it is considered one of the more haunted locations in the continental United States.
Right? That people like Ed and Lorraine Warren and Dan Aykroyd and these film crews, have spent time investigating this place. This is a important location in the world of the paranormal, even though at times it seems like this was all made up.
Yes, if you are not going to usher us into the stage of the investigation of talking about the problem with curses, I'm going to drag you in right now.
Uh-oh, because I was about to...
Like the beast of the woods himself.
I was about to try and wrap things up here in a nice little bow.
Because this is...
I was actually thinking of skipping conclusions this week.
Is... The thing with curses is, I always say every curse episode, we love covering curses, but they are tricksy little bastards.
Yeah.
Because they basically, they lure you in with all the sexy shenanigans of all, because it's a dope story, and humans love stories of curses. Human stories of curses are thousands of years old.
Mm-hmm.
We love them. We think they're cool. We think they're believable somehow deep down in our human logic. And they're great storytelling devices because they're essentially like a narrative device.
Yeah.
That they can string together events into a coherent story, something you can tell people about and can be passed down through the ages. But under a microscope, under a EMF reader, I'm just going to say it, they usually fail to produce the goods in terms of kind of like repeatable, like if we're looking for evidence, let's say, as to any kind of mechanic. And rarely are they even that specific in their mechanic that it's like, I would even prefer a curse that's like, any building that gets built in this town forevermore will burn down. And then every building burns down. I'd love that.
Right,
that's
a very
really
specific
repeatable
thing.
and specific. But they're usually not. They're usually it's just like the name of the movie, a series of unfortunate events.
Yeah, and I think this is the hard thing with Dudleytown. Obviously, you can take the whole Dudley thing out of it. You can take away the family curse and the Dudleys living in this place, and what you're left with could be framed in so many different ways. It could just be, this place is haunted. It could just be, this place is cursed but has nothing to do with families. It could just be that there is a demon living in the woods. I mean, as Dan Aykroyd said, he referred it to one of the most haunted places on Earth. The Warrens declared it demonically possessed. That's got nothing to do with a family curse. That has no relevancy to trying to kill a king, hundreds of years ago. I think people are obviously looking for explanations as to why these things are happening there.
Yeah.
Or happening here in Dudleytown. But at the end of the day, I mean, we've done enough paranormal cases where sometimes there really is no explanation. The explanation is we're at an epicenter of paranormal activity. We're on a ley line and shit is just going crazy in this area. Whatever the reason is, whatever the cause is, we don't know what it is. All we can see are the repercussions of it. Unfortunately, that makes it quite hard to definitively say that something is paranormal if we don't even know why it's happening in the first place. As I said, a lot of these stories are from the early 1800s, late 1700s, where people just died all the time. It was a very difficult time to be alive.
Some of these stories are crazy. They just walked off into the woods. And I mean, the sheer amount of people who just, quote unquote, went insane. So
yeah, I know. And I wish I had kind of more information, but really, even like scouring the internet on the history of Dudleytown and these residents, the most information you're getting out of these websites is just the date and time people went insane.
Isn't it terrible? People like to think about like how the history books will remember you. Imagine that's it. I got to this point in my life in my 30s, and then let's say I was just like, do you know what? I'm packing in all this paranormal investigator stuff, man. I'm just gonna go work in the shop back in my hometown. I'm just gonna chill. And then the history books was like, he went mad, and just no one cared anymore about him, and then no one ever saw him again.
Yeah,
like, that's not fair. Like, because their lives didn't end, by the way. They just left Dudleytown.
Yeah. Also, the way the story's told online, and admittedly at some points today, is quite loaded to try and portray this place as being incredibly haunted. For example, Abel Dudley, who owned the home and where the people were murdered, and then he, quote, went insane. He went insane. He lived till he was 90 years old, and I think just had dementia in the end.
Yeah.
But the headline is, he went insane and died.
Yeah,
and it's like,
Because
brother, we all go kind of insane right before we die.
They're trying to cast a wide net, to loop them all into the curse.
Yeah, I would say most people, as they age, start to lose it a little, especially right before they die at 90 years old in the 1800s.
Yeah.
So, yes, I agree. I think a lot of this information that you can gather on the town is definitely told in a way to try and make you believe that this was extra chaotic. The lightning strike, that's a little wild.
Yeah.
That's a little crazy to throw that one in there.
Huge if true, I would say. Huge if true.
I don't think we need to labor it anymore. Let's reach our conclusions right here on The Curse of Dudleytown. Kit, what do you think about today's episode?
I feel like a bastard. I feel like a cheat. I feel like a liar. Going on the record yet again on a kind of cursed case to start lambasting it, because I do enjoy these cases, but in the way we do things here at This Paranormal Life, we create, maybe you call it a high bar of standard of what it takes to be a confirmed paranormal case. But I just don't think this crosses that bar. I don't think it gives us anything to really sink our teeth into. I think this type of paranormal location can only be verified by us, by probably going there ourselves and really experiencing it. Because clearly Dan was convinced. Clearly Ed and Lorraine were convinced. Maybe we would be convinced, but until that day, it is a no from me.
Yeah, I think that's a safe conclusion to come down on. I actually really do love this case in terms of how kind of spooky, fun, and, you said it yourself. It does seem like the plot of a movie, like an old-timey pilgrim village that's set up and shit starts to go wrong. People start to die and go crazy, and it escalates and escalates, and there's monsters in the woods, and people are just walking off without saying anything. I would watch this movie. It sounds fantastic. But unfortunately,
it is M. Night Shyamalan's The Village, yes.
It does sound a little too fictitious, and we don't have enough evidence, photographs, or even official records and documents about the people that lived here in Dudleytown, I think, to give it a yes today. So unfortunately, today's case is going to be a double no.
Ooh, it hurts.
But hey, if you are a bit of an urban explorer or paranormal enthusiast, I won't encourage you to go visit this site because I believe it is illegal and you can be arrested. But on the YouTube videos and articles detailing the events of Dudleytown, there are a lot of people who have claimed to have gone out there themselves and explored. And that's where you hear a lot of these testimonies from people who have claimed to feel a sense of unease and watchful eyes as they explored the ruins.
The Chernobyl of the paranormal. It's a great title. I'll give it to you.
That might just be the title of this episode. I haven't decided just yet. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of the podcast. We're so excited to be back. Can you believe?
I think you went Connecticut there for a second for the podcast.
The podcast. Can you believe we're back with another October? It comes around so fast.
No. Yeah, what the I thought we were only celebrating Christmas a minute ago. It is crazy, but we're very, very glad to be here. Very happy to be doing so many exciting things this Halloween. We've told you about Campfire at the start of the episode. That's massive. Really excited to do that. Really excited to, hopefully it goes well and we'll bring it. It doesn't, to be clear, it's not going to be like a Halloween thing necessarily.
Yeah.
We just thought Halloween would be a great time to try it, and hopefully we'll bring it back another time. We have an exciting guest episode next week.
That's true, yeah.
Coming up very, very soon. And we have another project I can't talk about yet, but we'll see. And I'm very excited for it to be Halloween. This is our time, Rory. Let's enjoy it. I know the audience will. And let us know how you're celebrating your Halloween.
Absolutely. The countdown has begun to the 31st of October. And hey, if you want more This Paranormal Life, if one extra episode a week isn't enough, you can get more over on patreon.com. Now is the perfect time to flood your life with spooky content. And we've been doing some great stuff over on Patreon. Not only bonus episodes of the podcast every month, but we also have a weekly extra episode called The After Party, where recently we've been diving into all things Halloween. Recently on the podcast, I talked about I went insane temporarily when I went to the Halloween store and bought way too many decorations for my apartment. So I rattled through all of the insane decorations that I bought. And also this Friday on The After Party, we are dropping the This Paranormal Life official guide to Halloween. This is your guide to ensure that you have the best Halloween possible. We rate Halloween movies, Halloween candy, Halloween costumes, and Halloween activities. It's such a fun episode. It's great. You get to kick back, hear a little bit about the behind the scenes of making the show and the podcast. It's a lot of fun. So if you want to support the show, Patreon is the number one way to do that. Head on over to patreon.com/This Paranormal Life and check out some of the amazing content we have over there for Halloween.
You could type it into your browser, or if you're on YouTube, look in the description of this video, click the link. If you are on a podcast player, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, just look at the description where the bits where it says the words about the Chernobyl of the paranormal. Underneath that is some links to our social media and our Patreon.
So check it out. Thank you as always for listening to this week's episode of This Paranormal Life. We're only getting started. This is the 1st of October. I am so excited for Halloween and spooky season. I hope you guys are too. We will see you, of course, next week for another episode of TPL and our first episode of Campfire.
Right after a couple of shout-outs for the Patreon. Over on Patreon, we give shout-outs to our supporters on the $20 tier and higher. Let's do a couple of those.
You can already tell that I was moving towards the end of this podcast because I'd already just started Googling the hungry caterpillar. I started Googling it because...
Should we be afraid of him?
Because I actually don't think I read The Hungry Caterpillar when I was a kid, the children's book.
Okay. Yeah.
So I didn't know if he became a butterfly in the end.
Yeah.
Is that it? Well, okay, spoiler alert before we continue any further.
I mean, it's not like Lord of the Rings where it's like, I've seen the movies, but I haven't read the book. It's like... You could get caught up right now just in the Google Images tab, probably really quickly.
Is that the idea? Like, what's the lesson?
I don't remember.
We learned that if you eat enough food, you become a butterfly.
I think that was the point. Was he was very hungry because he was metamorphizing.
But that's not a lesson for a child.
You need to read the book, man. I don't remember. You
haven't
even read it and you're already getting annoyed at it.
It's got to be like he was never satisfied or something.
What are you talking about?
He ate too much. And then what's the lesson?
Yeah, but he's not the Buddha. Like, children just need to know that caterpillars turn into butterflies.
No, I think there's probably some lesson.
And it's also a metaphor about like growing up. Like, you will blossom into a big, strong, healthy child if you eat lots of good food.
Well, that's a lie, because I ate a ton of food when I was a teenager, and it didn't make me more beautiful.
Do the shout-outs.
Made me the size of 1,000 caterpillars.
Way bigger than 1,000 caterpillars, by the way.
So, thank you to Eric Schroeder.
Well, if it isn't Eric Schroeder, the Toad-a-Roader. This guy loves nothing more than kind of Luigi's Mansion style, just hoovering up toads. I don't know what vendetta he has against toads, but he is eroding those toads.
Eroding the toads?
He is hitting the roads, eroding those toads like it's nobody's business.
So it's kind of a pest control service, I assume?
Yeah, but like I think some toads are honestly like protected and shit. I'm certain this has to be illegal.
Yikes. All right, well, as long as
Unless
we can get...
he's reselling them on the black market, I don't know.
Okay, well, if we could get some of that sweet toad venom, that would be great. So, Eric, get in contact, because we could do with some of that at the Paranormal Commune. Thank you also to That Lady Rach. That lady loves to rach. So if there's anything that you want on the top shelf of a supermarket, she'll help you rach for it.
100%.
Reach up there.
I'm going to need that dirty magazine up the top. Even though I'm not a child anymore, I can't reach it for some reason.
That's inappropriate.
Can you rach for me, please?
That's a lady
Rach.
you're talking to. The lady. All right, so don't make them reach for a
Give
dirty
me a lad
magazine.
mag, please.
And I'll take the cherry elf bar.
Do they still make lad mags? I don't know.
Thank you, That Lady Rach. Thank you also to Le Capitan.
Wow, a French captain, presumably
Ooh la
listening
la.
to our show. I can't imagine what he's really getting out of it. Maybe he's trying to brush up his English speaking. Not the show to do this with.
Terrible.
Yeah, bad idea. You're going to learn a lot of kind of specific paranormal terms in English, which I suppose is interesting for, if you need to spot things like mermaids, selkies, and so on. But I would recommend a kind of a sailing specific podcast.
Yeah.
Sailing life.
I believe El Capitan is what they call Captain Morgan's. As a reference to the alcoholic beverage known as Captain Morgan's. So maybe in France they call him Le Capitan.
Yeah.
Can I have a glass of Le Capitan with Le Ice, please?
Hurry the up, please.
De ice, please? Thank you, Le Capitan. Thank you also to Adrian Korn. Adrian, you're losing that corn at the door, brother.
Come for the commune.
If you're coming to the commune, that corn is gone. I don't know how you made it past the hungry caterpillar guarding the front gate with with corn in your back pocket.
Call us a movie house cinema the way we're searching people for corn on entry for hidden corn.
So maybe, Adrian, if you do want to leave at any point, the corn will be returned to you, but let's face it, it'll be eaten within the minute of your arrival.
Do you remember hiding cinema snacks and drinks? I know, don't get me wrong, I'm not above this. Like, I think I've still done this in the last, in recent memory. But, I specifically remember, trying to hide, really difficult to hide things, like a 2-liter bottle of Coke, up a shirt sleeve. You're walking all funny.
Right.
And they're like, what you got in there? You've got, It's like, I bought the Butterkist popcorn at the supermarket. It's way cheaper.
Yeah, they don't care anymore, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think they're... Whereas back in the day, it felt like they were, patting you down.
It was like airport security. It felt like you had to... Yeah, because I remember getting caught with stuff. And they'd have to make you throw it out. It was a big deal. Crazy.
So funny.
Thank you, Adrian. Thank you also to Michael Mazan.
Michael Mazan, the man with the 3-point plan. Step 1, find a town that no one else lives in. Boom. Step 2, plant loads of crops. Step 3, go insane.
Okay.
And claim the insurance on the whole thing.
I mean, you could just harvest the crops.
Brother, that's a lot of hard work. Going insane takes next to no effort. And the payout, whenever you see that, I forgot to take out the insurance.
Yeah, because also, there's not such thing as insanity insurance.
Well, there's sick pay or whatever. If I go insane, I get money. Isn't that how it works?
So, Michael, I would say harvest the crops. Just do that. That's a safer way to do things. Try and remain sane. And, hey, let me tell you a little secret. If you got crops, you're going to go pretty far in the paranormal commune. You're already going to be in the higher districts.
You'll be a lord. Yeah, among men.
And thank you finally this week to Gregory Fries.
Gregory Fries likes to try and keep the peace. He's a real skill in de-escalating. If he's out at night somewhere, if he's out at a restaurant, if he's out at a bar, and you're walking the streets, you're walking home, and he sees a fight breaking out, he's a hero, doesn't even hesitate, just gets in the middle of the, whoa! Guys, we need to settle our differences with, he hits the deck. They just take him. That was the last time he tried it. They took him out. He hit the deck. He was in hospital for 3 months.
Oh, so he doesn't keep the peace at all. He's a victim of assault.
Well, he tried. He tried really hard, but he did tried it once, and then he learned the hard way that actually sometimes it's better just be a coward and stand back.
Yeah, stay out of it. I like to, if I ever get in the middle of anything, I like to just show up and hit both people.
Super punch!
And do a super punch. Yeah. And that will stop the fight for sure. If you hit them in the right spot, that will stop the
At
fight.
least for a millisecond.
And then you could kind of, while they're like dazed and confused, then they're in a position where they can talk things through.
And then you Naruto run away.
So give that one a shot, Gregory. Thank you to Gregory, and thank you to everyone that supports us over on Patreon. As I said, the show is community funded, and Patreon is the #1 place where you can support this show and the people that make it. Oh, and also get a bunch of cool rewards, like we mentioned. So if you want to check that out, if you want to see what's available and you want to support the show, patreon.com/thisparanormallife. And now I will say that we will see you next week for another episode of the podcast, another investigation, and the first episode of Campfire.
Woo! See you then.
Bye-bye.